بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآله محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن أعداءهم. Dua for day 25 of the month of Ramadan. We recite اللهم اجعلني فيه محبا لأوليائك ومعاديا لأعدائك واستنا بسنة خاتم أنبيائك يا عاصم قلوب النبيين. We'll focus inshallah on the first two lines of this dua, in which we ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst the lovers of His friends and amongst the enemies of His enemies. The reality is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has those servants of His that strive to please Him and strive to obey Him and strive to get closer to Him, and they are His awliya. And on the other hand, He has those who, God forbid, are enemies of His, people who work day and night against Him and with the shaitan and live lives of disobedience and disobedience towards Him and farness from Him Azza wa Jal. Our responsibility is, just as we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and claim to love Him, we must have love for those mu'mineen and those believers and those awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hatred for those enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is to have true faith and wilaya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, as narrated by عليه السلام, once came to his companions and asked them, which of the handles or ropes of iman and faith is the strongest? So some of them said salah, or they first said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger know best. And then some of them said perhaps it's salah. Some of them said it's sawm, fasting. Some of them said it's zakat. Some said hajj and umrah. And some said jihad. Right? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says every single one of those things has its own virtue. Right? They are all great, but they're not what I meant. The Prophet then says, وَلَكِنْ أَوْثَقُ عُرَى الْإِيمَانِ الْحُبُّ فِي اللَّهِ وَالْبُغْضُ فِي اللَّهِ وَتَوَالِي أَوْلِيَاءِ اللَّهِ وَالتَّبَرِّ مِنْ أَعْدَاءِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Rather, the strongest and most reliable rope of faith and iman and root and branch of iman is to love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to hate for the sake of Allah. It is to befriend the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to antagonize the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal. Only then can you truly claim to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not enough to say I love Allah and, for example, God forbid, not love His Holy Prophet. Same thing, you cannot claim to love Allah and the Holy Prophet but not the Imams. Same thing, you cannot claim to love those, all three of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophets and the Imams, and not love the believers. Rather, it is a connection, one to the other. If you love Allah, you love His Prophet. If you love Allah, you love His khulafa and the khulafa that He has assigned to us. If you love them, then you love the believers and the mu'mineen, people who are striving to work for Him and serve Him Azza wa Jal. Imam al-Jawad عليه السلام narrates that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once called out and revealed to one of His prophets, أَمَّا زُهْدُكَ فِي الدُّنْيا فَتُعَجِّلُكَ الرَّاحَةِ. As far as your asceticism and your being zahid in this dunya, it only makes you more comfortable. Why? Because somebody who doesn't have connection to the dunya doesn't feel so bad when something leaves from him in the dunya. For example, if he loses a property or loses family, because he is not so connected and attached to them. So this is for your own good. This is for your own sake. This only helps you, right? وَأَمَّا انْقِطَاعُكَ إِلَيَّ فَيُعَزِّزُكَ بِي. As far as you and your adornment to me and severing your connections and reliance on others besides me, that only makes you stronger, because truly the one who relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything, he is truly the strong person. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكِنْ هَلْ عَادَيْتَ لِي عَدُوًا أَوْ وَالَيْتَ لِي وَلِيًّا. This is a true test to see if you are willing to give and sacrifice for my sake. Have you antagonized one of my enemies and befriended one of my friends? This is a question to the Prophet, but it's a question to all of us, that true iman and faith and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shown through our befriending of everybody who is a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and antagonizing all the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout time, before in history, from the Prophet's times, from the Imam's times, and to this very day and for the rest of our lives. May we be given tawfiq to do so, inshaAllah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.